Are you tired of feeling manipulated, drained, or misunderstood after talking to certain people? You're not alone, and you're not powerless. In this video, you'll discover 30 powerful Stoic strategies to deal with toxic and manipulative individuals without losing your integrity or peace of mind. Rooted in the timeless wisdom of Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus, these techniques will help you. Speak with clarity and confidence to avoid being misinterpreted. Listen with presence to detect hidden manipulation tactics. Align your words with your actions to earn respect and repel toxicity. This isn't about fighting fire with fire. It's about standing firm, staying calm, and becoming immune to emotional traps. Whether in family, friendships, or work relationships, you'll learn how to apply Stoicism in a real and practical way, starting today. Which of these Stoic rules do you need to master first? Let us know in the comments. Like, share, and subscribe to join a community focused on mental strength, wisdom, and freedom from toxicity. Stoicism, toxic people, mental clarity, self-mastery, philosophy, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, emotional intelligence, boundaries, manipulation, don't let toxic people win. 30 Stoic rules that will set you free. 30 Stoic strategies for dealing with toxic and manipulative people. Ever experienced walking away from an interaction, feeling manipulated or belittled, despite your best communication efforts? You may have encountered verbal manipulation, a tactic frequently employed by toxic individuals that we inevitably face throughout our lives. In professional environments, family dynamics, or social gatherings, these manipulators deploy subtle methods to disorient, unbalance, and ultimately achieve their goals at your expense. This video introduces 30 formidable strategies rooted in Stoic philosophy, a classical school of thought highlighting self-mastery and cognitive clarity, to identify and counteract verbal manipulators. We're not advocating retaliation or adopting manipulative behaviors yourself, but instead focusing on creating healthy perimeters and safeguarding your mental equilibrium. Historical Stoic philosophers, including Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus, advocated maintaining emotional stability when confronting challenges, particularly difficult individuals. Their wisdom, contextualized for contemporary communication scenarios, provides powerful instruments for managing problematic personalities. The word trap. How clarity can protect you from toxic people. Mental clarity is one of the most valued virtues in Stoicism. Marcus Aurelius emphasized the importance of organizing thoughts before expressing them, as mental confusion translates into verbal confusion, and it's this confusion that manipulators exploit. Manipulators love ambiguities. They thrive in conversations where ideas are nebulous, where boundaries aren't well defined, and where expectations remain implicit. In this scenario, they can easily distort what was said, deny previous agreements, or completely change the course of the conversation, leaving you confused and vulnerable. Signs that you're being verbally manipulated. Before developing clarity as a defensive weapon, it's important to recognize when you're being manipulated. You often find yourself thinking, "I didn't say that," or "That's not what we agreed on." Your conversations with certain people always seem to end with you feeling guilty or inadequate. You justify yourself excessively in front of this person. The person constantly changes the subject when confronted. You feel an inexplicable discomfort. After interacting with them, even if there was no apparent conflict, verbal manipulation is like a slow-acting poison. You may not notice it at the moment, but its effects persist after the conversation ends, eroding your confidence and inner peace. Developing Stoic clarity as defense. Stoicism teaches us that we should have control over what depends on us, and the way we express our thoughts is one of those things. According to Stoic principles, developing verbal clarity is not just a communicative technique, but a philosophical practice that promotes virtue and strengthens character. Here are the practices inspired by Stoicism that we promised for this video. 1. Structure your thoughts before verbalizing them. Following Marcus Aurelius's discipline of writing daily reflections to organize his thinking, allocate moments to mentally arrange your communication before speaking. This proves particularly crucial during challenging conversations or boundary-setting scenarios. Exercise formulating precisely what requires communication in your mind. For complex or emotionally charged topics, consider documenting key elements beforehand. This practice enhances verbal precision while reinforcing your internal determination. 2. Practice brevity. Economy of expression matters. Stoics valued word efficiency. Epictetus counseled students to speak only when necessary and communicate only essentials. Excessive explanation not only weakens your message but supplies additional material for manipulators to misrepresent. When over-explaining ourselves, we unconsciously broadcast insecurity, something manipulators immediately detect. Master expressing needs, perspectives, and limitations directly and efficiently. Consider this transformation. Instead of, "Well, I was thinking, if it wouldn't inconvenience you too much, perhaps I might, assuming you wouldn't mind, retrieve that book I lent you several months back. But naturally only if you've completed reading it already, of course." Simply state, "I'd appreciate getting my book back this week. When would be convenient for pickup?" 3. Condense your purpose into a single statement. An effective approach derived from Stoic thinking involves distilling your communication objective into one clear statement. Before initiating important discussions, ask yourself, what's the essential message I need to convey? This practice strengthens verbal precision while maintaining conversational focus, avoiding the diversions and tangents manipulators frequently employ to create confusion. 4. Embrace specificity, particularly in commitments. Manipulators appreciate vague arrangements because they facilitate later reinterpretation. When establishing agreements with challenging personalities, specify exactly what, when, how, and why. Rather than saying, "Let's connect soon regarding the project," say, "Let's meet Tuesday, April 15th at 2 p.m. in Conference Room B to finalize Project Delta's timeline. Please confirm if this works for your schedule." 5. Employ calculated silence. Silence represents a powerful element in the Stoic arsenal against manipulation. Seneca emphasized silence as self-mastery manifestation. When uncertain about something or pressured toward impulsive responses, silence provides space to reorganize thinking. Additionally, silence prevents providing superfluous information potentially weaponized later. Manipulators typically fill silence with excessive talking, revealing more than intended or exposing inconsistencies in their positions. 6. Utilize first-person phrasing. To maintain precision and prevent word distortion by manipulators, employ first-person statements clearly expressing your needs, emotions, and limitations. Rather than stating, "You constantly interrupt during meetings," say, "I would appreciate completing my thought before moving to the next agenda item." This clearly communicates your requirement without inviting debates about perception differences. 7. Create documentation of exchanges. In professional contexts or relationships with manipulation history, consider documenting significant conversations. Following meetings or verbal agreements, send written summaries outlining discussed points and reached decisions. This approach, aligned with Stoic prudence principles, maintains precision while creating objective reference records for later consultation, eliminating reinterpretation opportunities. 8. Precision as embodiment of self-discipline and influence. Verbal precision transcends defensive tactics. It projects authority. Speaking clearly and confidently demonstrates self-assurance and subject mastery. This naturally discourages manipulation attempts, as manipulators typically target individuals appearing insecure or uncertain. Stoicism teaches that virtue manifests through both thought and action, with words bridging these domains. By cultivating verbal precision, you protect yourself while developing fundamental Stoic virtue, prudence, representing practical wisdom. Verbal precision generates internal benefits as well. It strengthens understanding of personal desires and requirements, diminishes social anxiety, and enhances decision-making aligned with core values. Listening is resisting. How silence and observation disarm manipulators. In Stoic philosophy, the power of attentive listening is emphasized as an essential tool for wisdom. This principle, applied to interactions with manipulative people, becomes a silent and extremely powerful weapon. True power lies not in who speaks loudest or who has the last word, but in who observes attentively and responds precisely. Toxic people exploit emotional reactions, and those who rush to respond fall exactly into their trap. Stoicism teaches us that what really disturbs us is not the words of others, but how we react to them. By listening with conscious presence, you disarm the psychological game and see the other person clearly. You notice contradictions, hidden intentions, and attempts at provocation, and most importantly, you don't enter the game. Why listening disables manipulators? Verbal manipulators use a series of tactics to gain emotional control over interactions. Provocations to emotionally destabilize, constant interruptions to prevent clarity of thought, sudden changes of subject when cornered, exaggerated or distorted statements to generate reactions, appeal to guilt or fear to force compliance. All these tactics depend on one thing: your immediate and emotional reaction. When you respond impulsively, you're playing by their rules. When you listen attentively without reacting immediately, you're effectively breaking this pattern and establishing your own rules. Attentive listening also allows you to detect inconsistencies in the manipulator's speech. Often, people who manipulate contradict themselves, but count on the fact that their interlocutor will be too busy formulating responses to notice these contradictions. Stoic practices for listening with power 9. The 3-second rule. A simple but powerful practice is to wait 3 full seconds before responding to any potentially manipulative statement or question. This small pause serves multiple purposes. It interrupts the accelerated pace that manipulators try to impose. It allows you to evaluate what was really said. It gives space to consider the best response, not the quickest. It demonstrates that you're not reacting emotionally. It often makes the manipulator feel uncomfortable with the silence and reveal more than intended. This practice aligns with Seneca's teachings on controlling passions and the importance of not reacting impulsively. 10. Attentive observation of non-verbal signals. The Stoics valued observing nature as a path to understanding. Similarly, carefully observing your interlocutor's non-verbal signals can reveal their true intentions better than their words. Pay attention to inconsistencies between what is said and body language, facial micro-expressions that may reveal discomfort or dishonesty, behavioral patterns that repeat across various interactions, tone of voice and variations in volume or rhythm. These observations give you valuable information that may be more reliable than verbal content. 11. Perception of emotional climate. The Stoics taught us the importance of maintaining emotional equanimity, that is, not being dragged by others' emotions. Manipulators frequently try to create an atmosphere of urgency, tension, or guilt to cloud your judgment. By listening attentively, you can perceive these attempts at emotional manipulation and consciously decide not to participate in this game. Keep your own emotional climate stable by breathing deeply and remembering that you have the power to choose how to respond. 12. Direct and clarifying questions. When you listen attentively, you can identify nebulous or contradictory points in the manipulator's speech. Instead of confronting them directly, which could lead to more manipulation, use simple and direct questions to clarify. Could you better explain what you mean by that? How does this relate to what you said earlier about? What exactly is the objective of this proposal? Could you give me a concrete example of what you're suggesting? These questions, asked with a neutral tone and genuine curiosity, frequently expose inconsistencies without creating direct confrontation. 13. The repetition technique. A simple but powerful technique is to repeat exactly what the manipulator said, especially when their words contain inconsistencies or unfair demands. This technique was used by Stoic philosophers as a way to clarify thoughts. For example, if someone says, If you really cared about this project, you would work late like the rest of us do. You can simply respond, "So you're saying that working late is the only way to demonstrate commitment to the project?" This repetition, without explicit judgment, frequently makes the manipulator reconsider their words, or more clearly reveal their true intentions. 14. The power of prolonged silence. Beyond the 3-second rule, there are moments when prolonged silence is the most powerful response. When confronted with an unreasonable demand or an obvious provocation, simply remaining silent, maintaining neutral eye contact, puts all the pressure back on the manipulator. This technique is deeply aligned with the Stoic principles of self-control and economy of words. Seneca emphasized that the wise person speaks only when they have something valuable to say. Prolonged silence frequently leads the manipulator to one of two outcomes. Either they back away from their original position, or they more clearly reveal their true intentions when trying to fill the uncomfortable silence. 15. Listening as a tool for self-preservation. Stoicism teaches that we should preserve our inner tranquility in the face of external provocations. Listening attentively instead of reacting impulsively is a powerful way to maintain this tranquility. When we truly listen, we are in a position of power. We can choose how and when to respond, instead of being dragged by the manipulator's emotional agenda. It's an active stance, not a passive one. Seneca said that anger is a poison we take hoping the other person will die. By not reacting impulsively, you deny the manipulator what they seek most: control over your emotional reaction. It's important to remember that you don't need to win the argument. The goal is not to defeat the manipulator at their own game, but to maintain your own well-being and integrity. And those who listen attentively react less and decide more. This is true Stoic power. Live what you say, action as a shield against toxicity. The most powerful weapon against manipulators is also the most fundamentally Stoic: coherence between speech and attitude. Nothing intimidates a toxic person more than someone who lives with integrity. Those who speak and act firmly leave no room for manipulation, blackmail, or doubt. Seneca emphasized that virtue lies not in what we say, but in what we do. Manipulative people quickly perceive who stands firm in what they say and who is all talk. This perception determines how they will behave toward you. 16. Coherence disables manipulators. Verbal manipulators operate by exploiting the distance between what we say and what we do. They identify patterns such as people who establish boundaries but don't maintain them, individuals who commit easily but don't fulfill promises, those who have declared values but act contrary to them. When you consistently demonstrate that your actions correspond to your words, you become a much less attractive target for manipulators. They thrive on inconsistency, not integrity. 17. Always keep your promises. Marcus Aurelius emphasized the importance of keeping your word, even in small things. This practice not only builds your external reputation, but also strengthens your character. Start by making only promises that you are absolutely certain you can keep. It's better to promise less and deliver more than the opposite. If some unforeseen circumstance makes it impossible to fulfill a commitment, communicate immediately and propose a concrete alternative. Manipulators frequently test your limits with small requests to see if you are consistent. By demonstrating consistency even in seemingly insignificant details, you establish a pattern that discourages future manipulation attempts. 18. Choose a value and practice it intensely. Stoicism teaches that virtues are strengthened by constant practice. Choose a value important to you, such as honesty, punctuality, or firmness, and practice it intensely for a full week. For example, if you choose honesty, commit to reducing small social lies or exaggerations during this period. If you choose punctuality, ensure you'll be on time for absolutely all commitments. This concentrated practice not only strengthens your character, but also creates a reputation for consistency that works as a shield against manipulators. People who try to manipulate prefer targets whose values are flexible or situational. 19. Build a reputation for consistency. The Stoics valued good reputation not as an end in itself, but as a natural reflection of a virtuous life. A reputation for consistency and integrity is built over time through small daily actions. When you consistently act according to what you say, people around you, including potential manipulators, learn that you are not easily influenced. This reputation spreads and works as preventive protection. Remember that your reputation is not built on occasional grand gestures, but on the consistency of small daily decisions. As Epictetus taught, it is our habitual actions that reveal who we really are. 20. Learn to say no with tranquility. One of the most important skills for maintaining coherence between words and actions is the ability to refuse requests or proposals that are not aligned with your values or boundaries. The Stoics valued simple and direct honesty. When you need to say no, do it without extensive justifications or excuses, which only open space for argument or manipulation. A simple, "Thank you for the invitation, but it won't be possible," is sufficient in most situations. Remember that by saying no to something that is not aligned with your values, you are saying yes to your integrity and inner peace. 21. Limit the chances of those who have demonstrated toxicity. While the Stoics valued forgiveness as a virtue, they also emphasized the importance of prudence. If someone has repeatedly demonstrated manipulative or toxic behavior, it is prudent to limit their access to you. This is not a matter of revenge or resentment, feelings that the Stoics discouraged, but of self-preservation and wise use of your energy. As Marcus Aurelius advised, we should be kind to others, but not allow them to harm our own well-being. Establish clear boundaries with people who have demonstrated toxic behavior, and maintain these boundaries consistently. Consistency is crucial here. Manipulators frequently try to re-establish old interaction patterns. 22. Be predictable in principles, unpredictable in reactions. This seemingly contradictory practice is extremely effective against manipulators. Being predictable in your principles means that you consistently act according to your declared values. This creates a reputation for integrity. However, being unpredictable in your specific reactions, within the limits of your principles, confuses manipulators who depend on predictable behavioral patterns to exercise control. For example, you can consistently value honesty, predictable principle, but respond to a manipulation attempt sometimes with silence, other times with a direct question, or even with well-placed humor, unpredictable reactions. This combination keeps manipulators perpetually unsure about which tactic will work with you, while reinforcing your reputation as a person of integrity. 23. Coherence as a form of personal authority. When there's alignment between what you say and what you do, you develop a natural form of authority that doesn't depend on hierarchical power or force. It's an authority based on character and integrity, something the Stoics considered the true source of influence. Manipulators generally operate by exploiting insecurities and inconsistencies. When they encounter someone whose actions are perfectly aligned with their words, they experience a form of cognitive dissonance. Their habitual tactics don't work, which leads them to seek easier targets. This personal authority also creates a kind of ripple effect. The more consistent you are, the more people around you tend to correspond with greater consistency and honesty in their own interactions with you. As Epictetus taught, we cannot control others' actions, but we can establish patterns through our own behavior that indirectly influence how others treat us. The integrated practice, combining clarity, listening, and action. The three Stoic weapons against manipulators, verbal clarity, attentive listening, and coherence in actions, are most powerful when used together. In fact, they reinforce each other. Verbal clarity helps express your boundaries, which your subsequent actions will reinforce. Attentive listening allows identifying manipulation attempts before they advance. Coherence between word and action establishes a pattern that discourages future manipulation attempts. Together, these practices form a cohesive approach grounded in Stoic principles, which not only protects against manipulators, but also promotes your own personal growth and inner peace, practicing in real situations. The practical application of these principles varies depending on the context and type of relationship. Here are some guidelines for common scenarios. 24. In close personal relationships. In intimate relationships, manipulation often exploits emotional bonds and can be more subtle and painful. In this context, communicate your boundaries with kindness but firmness. Recognize recurring patterns of manipulation and name them when they occur. Don't allow emotional closeness to substitute mutual respect. Remember that genuine love doesn't require compromising your fundamental values. The Stoics valued relationships based on virtue and mutual respect. Relationships that consistently undermine your inner tranquility or require compromising your integrity deserve careful re-evaluation. 25. In casual social interactions. In broader social contexts, manipulators often exploit social conventions and the desire to avoid discomfort. In these situations, practice short and direct responses when feeling pressure to conform. Use humor to disarm manipulation attempts without creating direct confrontation. Remember that it's not necessary to justify your choices or preferences. Be prepared to politely withdraw from uncomfortable situations. As Marcus Aurelius advised, in social interactions, we should be polite to everyone, but intimate only with those who share our values. Common challenges and how to overcome them. The implementation of these Stoic practices often faces internal and external obstacles. 26. The desire to be accepted. One of the greatest internal challenges is our natural desire to be accepted and approved by others. Manipulators are experts at exploiting this desire. Stoic philosophy reminds us that we should seek approval primarily from ourselves, from our conscience and internal values, not from external factors we cannot control.
This change in perspective strengthens our resistance to manipulation. 27. The fear of conflict. Many of us yield to manipulation for fear of conflict or immediate discomfort. Ironically, this avoidance of short-term discomfort often leads to much bigger problems in the long run. Seneca taught that we should learn to face small discomforts to avoid greater suffering. Establishing clear boundaries may generate momentary tension, but prevents persistent, toxic patterns. 28.
Induced guilt. Manipulators are experts at inducing guilt to get what they want. They frequently distort concepts like responsibility, loyalty, or generosity to serve their own interests. Stoicism teaches us to distinguish between genuine responsibility and manipulated guilt. Practice recognizing when guilt is being used as a control tool and always return to your fundamental principles for guidance. 29. Consistency in moments of stress. Maintaining coherence between words and actions is especially challenging in moments of stress or pressure. Manipulators frequently wait for these moments to test your limits. The Stoics regularly practiced voluntary deprivation exercises, such as fasting or exposure to discomfort, to strengthen their ability to maintain principles even in adverse situations. Consider incorporating similar practices to strengthen your resistance in difficult moments. The transformative impact, beyond protection. While the focus of this text has been protection against manipulators, it's important to recognize that these three Stoic practices, verbal clarity, attentive listening, and coherence in actions, have benefits that go far beyond defense against toxic people. Personal growth. The consistent practice of these principles promotes deep personal growth. Greater self-knowledge about your values and boundaries. Improvement in communication skills in all relationships. Increased confidence and authenticity. Development of discernment in choosing relationships. As Epictetus taught, true progress is not in impressing others, but in constantly improving oneself. 30. More authentic relationships. When you practice clarity, listening, and consistency, you naturally attract healthier and more authentic relationships. People who value honesty and integrity will be attracted to your authenticity, while those with manipulative intentions will tend to keep their distance. The result is a smaller, but more meaningful and nurturing social circle, something the Stoics valued over superficial popularity. Now, an extra tip. By living according to Stoic principles, you also become a model for others. Your consistency and integrity inspire those around you to adopt similar standards. As Marcus Aurelius advised, we should teach by example, not by speech. Your silent practice of Stoic principles can have a deeper impact than long lectures on ethics. Now tell us, are your attitudes working in your favor when dealing with toxic people? Which of these Stoic practices will you apply today to improve your relationships and have peace? Comment below with your choice, like this content, share it with those who need this wisdom, and subscribe to the channel to continue learning how to apply ancient philosophy to modern challenges.